So something like this is just lots and lots of words. I would never want this to actually be all on the presentation. But basically, what is it I'm trying to get to? What I'm trying to get to is that interviewers do not come in with answer keys. Because that's how product management works in the real world. There's just no answer key out there. And so they are not looking, there's not a single acceptable answer. It's not like a multiple choice test where there's only one answer that's correct. Instead, what they really want to see is they want to see, do you know how to frame the problem, structure the problem, break it down? And so like whatever framework you use, it can be a framework that they've never heard of before. They're more than happy to work with you through it. It does not matter whether you come up with an answer that they disagree with, because what matters is defending your answer, is talking through how you got there. On the flip side, even if you give them the exact answer that they themselves took on the job, right? So let's say, hey, Clement, I want you to decide what product to ship next, blah, 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 right? And I pick the product that interviewer themselves had actually done when they were faced with the problem in real life. Even if I give them the exact answer that they did, if I don't explain why, I've still failed. And so it really does not matter which framework you use, what answer you come up with. It matters how you got there. So I think something that I see a lot when people are preparing for interviews is they expect that there is only one correct answer. And that's very true in things such as, let's say, consulting. When you're tackling management consulting, your case interview has some set of variables. It's a predetermined case. And so they already know what the right answer is, what the wrong answer is, and they're going to try to put you down these different twisting paths that have traps. And that happens a lot in management consulting, where there is only one right answer. And so it's okay to work through a prescriptive structure and get to a single prescribed answer, because that's the way that's set up. But it just doesn't work that way for product management. So focus less on which framework and on what your answer is, and focus more on why you were getting towards that answer, is really what I'm trying to convey here. Something that is difficult is that there is a lot of text here. Generally, you don't want there to be too much text on the screen, because then people stop paying attention to you and they start paying attention to what's on the screen. The other thing that you really want to watch out for is you don't want to write incomplete sentences, because then it gives you the excuse to read off of your slides. And that is not okay. And the reason why it's not okay is you are there to share your perspective. You're there to give your own thoughts live. And so if they didn't need you there live, they wouldn't have asked you to present. Right? They would have just said, send me across the presentation and don't come and speak to us live, because that costs everyone time. Like, we might as well just send this out asynchronously. So you have to provide more value live than you would have provided if you weren't there. So that's why it's just really important for us to not read off slides. What we can do is you can use the slide as an aid. You can use it to help rejigger a memory or to help you get to the next point that you're trying to make. But you should not read off of it word for word. And so what I will do, and this is more of a paraphrases, by the time this is more polished, by the time I come back to this, there should be fewer sentences, there should be more bullets. Unfortunately, I do not see how I could put in a diagram or a chart. This is pretty qualitative, I think. So I don't really see a way to make it more visual. It will have to be text heavy, but I don't want it to be a whole-blown paragraph of just, lots and lots of text, like 8 sentences of text. I don't want that. And I also don't want it to all be in full sentences. I want there to be bullets, so that way I don't fall into the trap of just restating what is on the screen. So I'll circle back to this. So the second point here that I'm getting across is when you are working with the interviewer, you should not think of them as the enemy. You should not think of them as someone who's testing you. You should not think of them as a judge. They are going to be your colleague in the future. Once you get the offer and you accept and you work there, they're actually going to be your peer or within your organization, right? And so many times when candidates are in the interview, they will beat themselves up, or, oh, I stuttered, or, oh, I didn't shake hands well enough, or, oh, I could have had a better intro, or whatever. And it's not that, right? I think it is much more impressive to a PM hiring committee for you to come from a place of strength, to know what your value is, and to have that perspective on the world of what makes a good product, right? What is something that solves the customer's pain and makes the business grow, right? You have that sense. And you don't want to let your fear or anxiety during the interview corrupt that sense. I think many times people will misinterpret interviewer silence or interviewer questions as criticism. It's not. It's more that we are trying to understand where you're coming from. Like we want you to succeed. Something that comes up is, oh, the interviewer is trying to knock me out of the interview. And really we're not, I promise. Because if we want to knock you out, we could have knocked you out during the resume stage. If we thought that you weren't going to be a fit, we wouldn't have spent the time to bring you on site. And so the very fact that you're interviewing with us means that we're invested in you. We want you to succeed, right? Because think about it from our perspective as interviewers. We have some role within the company that is not being filled. And every day longer that it is not filled, that's another day where we're losing revenue. That's another day where we are not getting customers. And so we would love to fill the role ASAP, and we would love for you to fill it. But we need to do our due diligence. We need to make sure that you have the right stuff in terms of satisfying that role. But we're here to help, right? Like we want to provide you with all the context that you need to succeed. So your interviewer is very much not your enemy. Your interviewer very, very, very does much want to see you succeed because that's the whole point that they're there, right? If they didn't want you to succeed, they would have just straight up not interviewed you. They just would have kept doing their day jobs, right? Something else to keep in mind is interviewers, we are typically working. Typically, we are trying to ship our own products. And so, for us to say, yeah, we're going to interview this person, demonstrates that, we are invested in you. We want you to succeed. Or else we would just be trying to tackle our own problems. So just remember that when you are interviewing, you should come from a place of strength. You should feel confident. You should not feel like, oh, the interviewer's out to get me, or every small mistake that I do is being weighed against me. No, we're all colleagues. We are here to give you the context that you need so that way you can actually present a structured decision that you can defend, right? That's really what product management is all about. So that's just something I want to make sure that people really understand before we even get to any of the frameworks. Because I think the problem with teaching other people, this is what a bad answer looks like. Here's a framework, here's what a good answer looks like, is it moves people back into that candidate mindset of, oh, there's only one right way to do this. And that's not the point. The point is there are lots of right ways to do this. It's just that having a framework makes it easier to do it, right? Knowing what a non-compelling answer sounds like is helpful for us to calibrate ourselves, but it doesn't mean that the answer is always going to be bad. And so, as an example, one of the things I'm going to do during this presentation is I am going to give a bad answer that has good content, but the answer is structured badly. So what do I mean by that? So I admittedly, I haven't come up with all the details yet, but something that comes up in product sense interviews, right? What is a product sense interview? Product sense interview is, you are the PM of something. You're the PM of Yelp reviews. You are the PM of Google Maps, whatever. What do you ship next? Right? And lots of answers could be right. Let's pick Yelp reviews, just as a random example. I am the PM for Yelp, and I own reviews. And so something that I could say is, oh, well, I know that there are a lot of food bloggers out there who are moving into podcasts or moving into video content, and Yelp reviews are still primarily text-based and picture-based. And so we are losing some of our most engaged Yelp reviewers. We're losing some of our most engaged Yelp reviewers and some of their really valuable content to these other platforms. And so because that's happening, we need to build the same stuff so that way we're not bleeding them. And we want to, so basically we want to build video form reviews for Yelp reviews so that way we can reward our most committed Yelp customers. We can incentivize our most committed Yelp reviewers, or Yelp elite, to continue to stick with us instead of spinning off their own websites and competing against us for traffic. And all of that content, all of the stuff in the answer that I just gave is good and could have come up in a well-structured interview. The problem is that it's a bad answer because I'm missing some key pieces. I never defined how does Yelp reviews fit into Yelp's broader missions? What is the metric that I'm going after? Who is the target audience, right? Like I never defined, if I'm the PM for Yelp reviews, do I care more about the reviewers or do I care more about the people who are looking at the reviews or do I care more about the restaurants where the reviews are being put up, right? Like I have not addressed any of this market definition yet or, market segment, which users are going after. I never defined a pain, right? I said something from Yelp's perspective of, we're bleeding users, but I never went back and said, well, what's the pain that we're trying to solve? And so my answer was theoretically correct, but because I never framed the problem, I never made it important. Why does this stuff matter? And why is this stuff urgent? I have failed. And so what I want to do is I want to show people that in the good interview response, I can give almost the exact same response, but structured a little bit differently. And like the entire, I've explored the problem and aligned on what matters and why it matters. That itself is the key differentiator. Like the words that come out of my mouth in terms of a bad interview answer and a good interview answer could be very, very close to the same. It's just like the prep work was missing from the bad answer and the prep work was there for the good answer. Right? So that's something I want to try to convey during this presentation. I am not 100% sure if I've come up with the right way to convey that yet, but that's what I want to get to. Right. So there's that. So circling back, we've now talked about, okay, how are we going to collaborate with the interviewer during the interview? Right? Like they are not your enemy. They are not trying to get you. They're not trying to knock you out. They really want to assess you on your own merits. So there's that. And then demonstrating structured thinking. So